I'm like, I want to do this shit, man. But guess what?
You do it.
I'm going to do it.
As long as you do it.
And that's what I know about it, man. That's why I stopped doing it. I'm thinking, oh, man, you could fucking sit here. You can look at your shoes for 30, 40 minutes. You could go. You could think about it all day long. You could do it anyway.
And sometimes you don't have the time to look at your shoes for 30 minutes.
No.
Those are the beautiful days.
Yes.
Because you just have to go.
That's right.
And so, like, there's no room for procrastination.
You gotta do it anyways. And so that's, I think, where drive plays a role for Goggins. In terms of Jouisaunce, there are multiple times where he said, and I just have a couple quotes, where he talks about, like, enjoying the pain. These are both from one's from his books are called Can't Hurt Me, and then the second one is called Never Finished. And so this first one, he says, this is when I think he was dying. The weeks progressed and the conditions deteriorated, and that's when I began to enjoy myself. Some days this is when he was training for something, my bad. Some days I left the house without breakfast and barely eating dinner the night before. I wanted to run my daily 20 bonked because I knew a moment like this was bound to come in the Rocky Mountains. I needed to train the body to churn out miles even after the fuel tank was drained and send a message to myself that I was capable of finding energy where there was none, right? He chose to deny himself food, to run starving and dehydrated in, like, the heat of Florida weather, is like where he was training for this one particular race that was outside of Breckenridge, Colorado. I think later on, training for this same race, he says, one afternoon, I hit a wall at mile 15. My pace plummeted from 7 minutes per mile to the mid-9s. I was out of water, of course, but as miserable as I was, I found myself enjoying being dizzy, dehydrated, and calorie-starved. I relished the suffering because it let me know that I still had it in me to push myself that hard, and I scorched the final mile in 7 minutes flat. And so he comes up with all these reasons and these justifications for, no, wait, because it reminds me that I'm alive. It shows me what I've accomplished. But it's like, there are other ways that you can do that, bro. Like, you don't have to literally starve yourself, dehydrate yourself, and run 20 plus miles a day, run 100 miles a week. And so there is, like, he is getting some sort of jouissance from the pain, like this enjoyment, the enjoyment that we get when we have road rage. Kind of the sick, twisted enjoyment. And you just see that it's so obvious throughout the book, through everything he says, and he's in such denial of it. And he tries to rationalize it, but it's like, Goggins, it's irrational, it's okay. It's okay, David. And just another, I'll wrap up here soon, but just another couple areas I think in which some Lacanian concepts come in here that are just, like, such obvious examples is the objet petit a, which we all did some or not all of us, but we did some exegetical readings of Mikey's post on the objet a. And let's see if I get this right. I think so. Objet a is just like this idea or this condition or this thing that we latch on to, that we think, oh, if I have that, it'll make my life better. If I could go back to this time that actually never existed for me, like, my life will be better. If I could just clean my whole house, if I could just finally get my house clean for one day, then everything will be fine. I say this and I think this on the daily, and I actually need to clean the house. But, like, also I can go, okay, but is that actually going to solve all my problems? And for David Goggins, something that was always kind of pushing him, or was this idea that if I can just get my dad to apologize, if I can just blame everything on my dad, then things will be okay. Then I can, take some weight off of my own shoulders. And so at one point in his adult life, after, like, leaving his dad with his mom, when he was young, like, and never talked to the man, and finally he needed to go get some closure. I think this is a pretty common and, like, stories of orphans or people who have estranged parents. They latch onto this objet of, oh, if I could just go meet my birth parent, meet this person who abandoned me, meet my dad, and get this sort of sorry, this forgiveness, then I can just have one big happy family again and all will be forgiven. And so he went, he visited his dad, and that he realized, like he had the realization that, no, this man has not changed. He still drinks, he still sleeps with prostitutes, he's still a piece of shit, and he was kind of able to almost realize, like, he literally had this is my objet, and then he had the realization, oh, this will not make me whole, and so he moved on. He doesn't care about his dad. When his dad died, he did not go to his funeral, and I don't blame him. Something that was really interesting that he does to kind of motivate himself is he has made an alter ego for himself, or his ideal ego, which is Goggins, the hardest man alive, the uncommon amongst the uncommon, the man who runs the ultras, versus David, just like the 300-pound lazy fat ass who was beat by his dad. And so he has these two kind of conflicting people within him, his ideal ego versus the opposite. And it's interesting is that Goggins, the hard guy, versus David. I'll say Goggins versus David. When he was growing up, Goggins used to be his ideal ego. That was kind of what his desire latched onto, whereas his drive was keeping him in the David level, was overeating, wasn't working out, like was keeping him at this lower level, whereas over time he was kind of able to switch that to where now he doesn't desire to be David anymore, but you could argue that yes, he desires to be this Goggins guy, but then his drive for this like physical, his drive to be such a hard ass, to like be so successful, the jouisaunce that comes into play is undermining like his literal physical health. His knee right now, just because of how much strain he's put on it from all of his running, from all of his untrained running, from like Navy SEAL training, his knee is just messed up like beyond repair. He's like, oh yeah, my body's broken in a million different ways. All the doctors are like, what the heck, how are you doing this? But he just still does it. And he's like, look, I'm fine. Look at what the human body is capable of. But I think most normal people are like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't be doing that. Like, yeah, you're 50, you're feeling fine right now. Yeah, you have the privilege, the time, energy, and the money to like afford all of these surgeries, treatments, whatever. But there is a sense that his drive is coming in and like almost preventing him from being this ideal Goggins because of the actual physical pain and injury and sickness that he puts himself through. And so with all of that, just to tie it up here and to like wrap up kind of the connections to Lacan that we see, a thing that I appreciate about him is that, like I said earlier, he doesn't think he's whole. He doesn't think he's complete. He's like, I am not the man. I do not have the phallus. I'm a piece of shit. I'm lazy. I'm the fat ass David Goggins back in the 90s. And so this like recognition that he's not whole, that he doesn't have it, I think is what makes him have it in a sense. I think like Mikey's phallus post is really, really crucial to understanding this and the way that like the phallus functions, the symbolic phallus, and like a guy driving around with a big truck and American flag, like he's trying to symbolize like, oh, I'm the man. And then that makes you go, like, I see a guy driving around like that and I go, oh, I get it, your dick is big. Because he's trying to be like, I'm the man. But then by trying to be the man, he's not the man. Like, it's kind of embarrassing and lame. But David Goggins, on the other hand, is like, I am not the man. I do not have all the answers. My method, you probably shouldn't do it. Actually, I would never tell someone to run until their kidneys are failing. And I think because of that, like, I think he kind of does embody this, like, ideal masculine man character. And so in that sense, it's inspiring. He's definitely an obsessive. He talks about the obsessiveness driving him. So there's just all of these different things going on. And I think in terms of like trying to understand some basic Lacanian concepts, like he is this perfect model